Hello, horsemen, and welcome back to the Imperfect Question. Well, I'm in the car, and you might just be able to see behind me that the trailer is hooked up and JJ is in there. And I'm feeling somewhere a mixture between a bit nervous and excited because today I've got a lesson with Lyla Cansfield. So I'm off to my friend Catherine's house where we're going to be having the lesson. I'm a little bit anxious about the drive today because it's been raining all weekend, so there might be some floods or big puddles on the way. So fingers crossed that that's all drained off now. Because actually today I'm very lucky. It was meant to be yesterday the lesson, but it's and obviously it was really tipping down yesterday. It was that really bad yellow weather warning across Wales. But today it's cleared up quite a lot. There's just the odd shower in the morning. So yeah, I should be lucky for getting there. So we'll get JJ there and get on with lesson, and I'll see you there.
I kinda adore you, but don't get too proud. You're like my favorite snack, I won't say it out loud. I won't say you're perfect, we all know you're not. But hey, you're the best kind of way that I got.
Once JJ and I were all tacked up and ready to go into the arena, one of the first things we decided to do was to move around to see how she was feeling that day. Obviously, we're in a new environment, and also with her tack being gone straight away without any standard groundwork, it's a different experience for her. So you can see she's a little bit lively, having a little bit of some fresh bucks around. She has just travelled quite far in the trailer as well, so she's getting some of that moved out of her system. But fairly quickly you will see that she begins to settle down. So to begin with, I'm just moving with her to allow her a bit of a bigger circle, having some changes of direction. We did between about 5 and 10 minutes of this movement just to really give her a chance to get settled into the environment, because when we're planning to mount up today, I want it to be as safe as possible. You can see how much she starts to settle down and begins to listen a lot better changes of direction, and also as she goes along she's got a better rhythm. Still quite lively for her, but yeah, she's definitely settling in a little bit better, smoother into the canter. Lovely. Once I felt she had settled down sufficiently, then I became more stationary and we began our more regular type of circling that you've seen me do before, where I stay fairly still and she goes around me on the outside. This gives us a good chance to have a chat with Lyla about what we're planning to do in the lesson today. I've been having a couple of issues at home, as I've mentioned in videos before, with schooling at home, Ridden, and I thought some of these issues would be ideal for Lyla to give me some hints and tips on, some good clues of what to do. And the first one that I really mentioned to her is that I am having trouble riding with just a hackamore because she's so strong compared to on the ground. I explained that I've done a lot on the ground now, so that when I use the rope on the ground, she is quite light, but still in the saddle she's very heavy. So Lyla takes her off and does some exercises with her just to test how hard she can be to turn on the ground, and what we find out is it's very much to do with the angle of the rope. So because the rope angle is coming up more straight behind her when we're doing the actions from the saddle, she's not quite learned yet how to react to that. Whereas if I pull it to the side, say I was doing a normal maneuver with the rope to the side, then she is actually very light. So we did some practicing on the ground first to see how that went, and she did seem to lighten up a little bit with that. So we decided she was doing really well on the ground with this section so far, and one last test we thought we'd do just before mounting up is to ask her to move a little bit faster in trot and just see if she could take delicate controls to turn slightly. So just put her on a little bit of a circle with the rope, and she did okay at that. So we decided it was okay to progress forward and head towards the mounting block to go mount up and start riding. So I go to the mounting block, I've got my trusty stick, so I ask her to come towards me. Glad that she did it, because sometimes in a different environment they're too busy looking at everything else to listen to what you're saying. She was a little bit reluctant to keep going, but we got there in the end. Give her some good reward for coming to me. Take a second to get on. Once I'm on and safely secured in the saddle, I always remember to do a couple of lateral flexions. Here you see just one of them. getting her reward for doing that. It's nice to do it every time I get on. So we begin by just having a simple walk around the arena, just to assess that now I'm on board. Obviously she can't take safety from me being next to her on the ground, so she needs to feel a little more secure, and she was doing very well. So we got on with lesson, and Lyla asked me to do a series of direct rein and indirect rein turns. So you're about to see the first one coming up now. Now as you can see, bearing in mind we're just using the hackamore, it's a little bit jolty and not very smooth, and she's quite resistant to it. So one of the first things Lyla notes to me is that I've got my weight on the outside, and she says I really should have my weight on the inside for any bend like that. Also, you might notice that I've got two sets of reins here. We decided to pop on her bridle with one set of reins and the hackamore with the other set of reins, just in case for some reason she became unhappy in the new environment and wanted to take off and I needed more control. So here we have another one, and you can see that although she does the turn, it's very much going into the turn in the first place, that she's very strong on that rein. So you can see she pulls against it. We're doing a more direct rein turn now, so more open turn. With the indirect rein, we're really looking for almost a crossover of the back legs as they turn around. It's a much smaller circle, bending very much on themselves. A direct rein is a much more open, larger circle going around, and I had my weight more on the inside then, but it's difficult to remember to do. So there she is, quite resistant again. We try quite a lot of different things. Lyla also notes that I put my foot a little bit too far back for the indirect reins, so she's asked me to correct that and bring it just behind the girth rather than quite so far back. That's a much smoother direct rein, but although they look smoother, there is actually an incredible amount of force going into them. And that's what I want to change. I've done a lot of groundwork with her, where I've worked very hard to get her steady pressure down to very light pressure, so that we can just use very light, you know, just slight finger pulls on the rope, and she's very good at that. But as soon as I'm on board, it's a different question. So one of the ideas that Lyla did have for me, which is not very clear in the video, but was to put small bits of resistance into the line, so give and release. So instead of just continuously pulling the rope around, I like do a little pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, pull, release, so that there's nothing too much for her to brace against as we do our circles. This was something that I was finding quite hard to remember to do, so I would set off to start doing it, but as soon as she put the pressure on, I'd almost forget straight away, and then it'd be halfway through the turn that I'd remember to do it. It did seem to make a difference, but it's definitely something that I need to practice at home. And in fact, Lyla did say that that would be actually the real solution for me with this, is literally just to, obviously not all in one go, just over time, but to do hundreds of these different turns and just get a really more used to it. It's not about the turn itself. She can do the turn very well with the bridle, but it is about the response of the hackamore on the nose and becoming lighter, and her understanding giving to it. I often find with JJ that sometimes there is actually a confidence issue in there, although it looks like a stubborn behaviour. So that's something I can think about and try and come up with some ideas to work with as well. Here we are trying some to the opposite direction. You can see, so she has a tendency to slow down as we turn, so I'll lose a little bit of momentum going forward on that one. And again the same thing, so losing a little bit of momentum going around. That could be me, or it could be from the pressure. When we feel we've done a few either way, I did take some out there because we've seen quite a lot the other way, we decided to take off the hackamore part and just work with the bridle and try some other exercises. So another problem I've been having at home that you will have seen me mention before is that as soon as I move up into a trot, she starts falling out through the shoulder and can often try and come back towards the centre. So here we are going along, and you can see that's almost exactly what's happening. So we're trying to bend to bring it into a circle, and you can see very much she's already falling in through the shoulder, coming back to the centre. So we're not getting a nice shape going on. And anytime I try and turn, there's some resistance there as well. She's not turning quite where I'd like to, and also there's that falling in issue. Now at home, as you know, I was doing a lot of work with coming back to the walk and starting again and building up some confidence ways, but I was just interested to see what Lyla could come up with to kind of help me out a little bit with some ideas here. So we were trying to do smaller turns, more like the kind of turns that we'd been doing before, and the result was a little bit wild. We're a bit all over the place. You can see I'm pulling the rein here. I put my weight on the inside, also got my leg on the left, and we weren't getting any turns. She's just falling through. So I've shown her a little bit of what's happening. We're talking a little bit here, and she comes up with an exercise that's going to be just a walk to start with, where we're going to do more like a yin-yang pattern. So just before we begin that, and as she's explaining it to me exactly what she means, we just take JJ a walk on a circle, which obviously she doesn't tend to fall in on a walk around, just to allow her a moment to calm down. So here we are, basically at the walk, turning and going back onto our circle again on the outside and coming around. And then I'm going to come down on a circle again to the center, and we'll do the same kind of it's a direct rein turn really, but it's kind of a yin-yang pattern because we're kind of teardropping back onto our original circle again and going around. Obviously if I was continuing and just doing one way, we'd keep going on the circle, but because it's the actual turn and response that we want to practice, I'm just doing one at either side. So we're ending up with a half moon shape. You can see that her response is much better at walk, and that's where at home I was led to believe that possibly there's a lot of confidence issues within this. So after a few of these at walk, we decide that we are going to try and up it a little bit and go into trot and see how that goes on. And as you can see, immediately it's falling apart. I'm not turning in the center anymore, we're drifting out through that shoulder, and I would say really it's more the fence that turned us than anything else. She's a little bit better on this right rein here, you can see it's still drifty a bit, but what we're doing is bringing her back down to walk a little bit as we turn, just to try and get that control back in again. It's almost a little bit like she's kind of running off, but it's, you know, it's definitely some sort of confidence issue. So again, just practice, repetition's going to help this, and she definitely finds it easier on her right hand rein. I have to remember to keep my weight on the inside, just like she was telling me before. Make sure that I'm using control of my other leg as well, turning my body, all those kind of things. At this point I'm feeling like it's not really happening and not really improving any, so I stop and have a chat with Lyla, and she decides to tell me that maybe I should be using more support rein. So she comes along to try and help me understand how I can use the rein on the opposite side to support her turn. So there she's trying to give me a little demo, even though it's a bit harder when you're off. She's trying to talk me through how to use the rein as more of a support, perhaps overuse it to start with, and just see how she responds to it. So here I am trying to do almost a 4/4 turn, but still kind of a direct turn, and using more supporting rein, and you can see it was definitely a tighter turn. She's not sure about the pressure because she's not had this kind of pressure with the two reins turning at the same time. I tend to use, although I'll keep contact with the other one on the outside, I tend to just use the inside one a bit. So here I'm almost guiding across, almost neck reining I suppose, with the outside rein. So it's a different experience for her. Here we are again trying this, and because this is new to me as well as her, we are not doing this at the trot, but it's definitely something for me to practice. And the hope is that if she can understand a supporting rein a bit more, then that might help control her shoulders as we're going around and stop her falling out quite so much with the shoulders. And yes, realistically, I should not be pulling the inside rein away quite so much, but this is just to help enhance. In fact, sometimes I even cross over with the supporting rein a little bit at the moment too, and I know that's not correct either, but this is all just to try and help explain this and make it clear to JJ what we are doing. I think she did extremely well practicing all these different new maneuvers that she hasn't really tried before, and it's a lot to remember, to keep your weight on the inside, to use 2 reins and use your whole body to turn as well, so it sometimes takes some practice to get that all into your head. As a roundup, I have Lyla trying to explain to me how learning to move the shoulders could be key for solving this problem and some other problems that I have, and actually it is something that I can do whilst I'm out on a hack. So I do think that was a really lovely lesson with Lyla. We learned quite a lot in the time we had, and I'll be looking forward to seeing her again next year.
So wasn't that an amazing lesson? I really felt that we picked up quite a lot of tips then that I can use to improve some of the issues I've been having with JJ. Just little things to change here and there, or to practice over and over again, but we can improve ourselves, I'm sure. And also good to hear that there's some of those things that I can use whilst I'm out on a hack, because we're getting to that time of year now where the rain is coming and the fields are going to start getting boggy and dangerous to ride in, and I don't have an arena. But at least I've got a plan now to move forward with, and I can't wait to go through the winter until the good weather again next year. So I'm sure we'll have lots of fun in other ways through the winter though. So anyway, I'll see you again next time. Hope you enjoyed the lesson as well, and maybe picked up some tips or something you could try. So see you again next time. Bye.